Hey, sports fam, it's me, Sasha, here with part 2 with Brandon Day. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, be sure to go back and listen to that one. But if you have already, enjoy part 2. So tell me, I know that, eventually you went to this really dark place after college. Mm-hmm. And first, I want to say I'm really sorry for that. That's being human can be really hard. And
yes, well said.
And you worked in the film industry for a bit, mm-hmm. and then you had this epiphany one day. Tell me a little bit about that and about what your journey looked like. We don't have a ton of time, but I'm interested in how you got into, creating this NeuroFlow method and what that's all about.
Yeah, we'll do the truncated version because it's a common story, I think, that people can resonate with, that mm-hmm. a lot of people go through, at least in the sports world. So I didn't have a lot of direction after college. It was really all about sports. I didn't do a lot of planning. Mm-hmm. And so after football ended and that access to flow states was kind of ripped away from me, I was really stuck. And the Sports Illustrated, to be honest, for my mental health was not great because it kind of built me up a little bit. So it maybe inflated the ego a tad, but I'm pretty humble by nature. And so there was a little bit of a cognitive dissonance that was happening there. Didn't feel worthy of it. Right. I explained it away as luck and all these things. And it really it led me down a dark path. I sometimes say that the brightest light creates the darkest shadow. And so a lot of that insecurities and things that, sports helped mask, maybe they started really coming to the surface. And so, what did I do? But I tried to, find flow in substance abuse and acting, which I wasn't very good at. Yeah. So I didn't really have the skill, but it was performance and it was, a little bit of risk baked in, and it was, it was something I was kind of familiar with, the feeling of, and it was fun. We had a lot of fun and it was exciting. So I ended up in LA with my producing partners and fellow actors working on these movies, and we made 2 great movies, and it was an incredible experience. But by the end of that 5 years or so, I was in LA on an air mattress, couldn't afford to buy my next pack of cigarettes, and so depressed that I didn't leave the house for weeks at a time.
I had heard this story about, you not having any money and waking up on this deflated mattress and, not being able to buy a pack of cigarettes. And for some reason, that part of it, the cigarette part of it, thinking about you being this great athlete. And for some reason that was so illustrative to me, that I thought when you're to that point where you're damaging your own body, you knew full and well how bad it was for you, and that you're sort of trying to make the outside match the inside. You feel so terrible that you're doing these things to yourself. That to me felt, suddenly I understood how bad it was.
Oh yeah. I still remember a moment, thinking about ending my life with a cigarette in hand, and I hadn't left my house in 3 weeks. And it was at that moment where I was like, what? What have I become? Kind of thing. And this is not who I want to be. I have to do something. And so I started just working on my body and trying to figure out how to heal the chronic pain that I was left with in my neck, back, knees, all over.
And these were football injuries.
Well, I played every sport. So some were basketball injuries, some were football injuries. A lot of the head injuries came from football, but also from basketball, and also from my proclivity for heavy metal, right? And a lot of the head banging I was doing back in those days. So
I did not see that coming.
Love me some heavy metal.
Like who? Like what heavy metal?
Oh
do you
man,
like?
I mean,
you're like, where do I start?
Yeah.
Heavy metal to me is like Quiet Riot, right?
Okay. Yeah, that's the start.
Twisted Sister.
I actually just got back from an AC/DC concert.
Oh, nice.
Last weekend with my dad and my brother and some others. Great concert. But,
was it in Vegas?
It was in Vegas.
I actually know the person who played the bass guitar in that show.
Oh, wow.
He's a friend of a friend, Chris Chaney.
He did a great job.
Shout out to Chris. Yeah. He's incredible. He's played with everybody.
To play with AC/DC.
Right. Yeah. I know.
But Slipknot, Kill Switch Engage. I dig on some heavy stuff sometimes. I like it all, really.
Yeah.
But
You know what's interesting about that is that a lot of the really, really smart people who I know and who I know of are also very into heavy metal. What is that? Do you know?
I have some theories.
Yeah, hit me.
I think part of it is the sometimes the complexity of the music and how fast it is kind of matches the speed of their thought. So I think that, and this is totally just an opinion and conjecture a little bit, but could be that some of it, the music is really complex and rhythmic and precise. Like heavy metal music, especially guitar and drums, can be extremely precise. And that, I think, gives a feeling of like calm to a busy mind. Like
sort of satisfying and maybe stabilizing.
Yeah. And there's some specific areas in the brain where that really shows up, like your cerebellum, which is involved with super coordinated movement and rhythm. And so that music can be very activating for that area of your brain, which also is really impactful for flow states, because it's where a lot of our implicit and procedural memory sits. So stuff that we're really good at, that we are skilled at, we don't have to think about. It's that cerebellum and basal ganglia areas that just go right into it.
I have a question about that. Do you have to establish those skills young in order to get to that state?
It's more helpful, but no, it's not required.
Really?
Yeah. Our brains are changing until the day we die. This is well known now, like neuroplasticity never stops. We used to think it ended at like 25. Not true. So you can literally learn anything until the day you die, but there are critical periods earlier in life where it's much, much easier.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about things like language acquisition. Yeah.
Or an instrument.
Yeah.
Or something that is like, very novel to the brain. Much easier if you do it early on, but you can do it anytime. And it's why I say to a lot of flow junkies, like, I don't like the term adrenaline junkie. I think adrenaline is counterproductive.
I've actually talked to people who play sort of, or who compete in adrenaline, sort of stereotypical adrenaline sports, who have said that they hate a race car driver. I interviewed Colin Garrett, and he said, I hate adrenaline. I hate that feeling. That's not what I'm chasing. And now it makes more sense hearing you say that, because I was like, wait, what? You're a race car driver. Yeah.
So it's the adrenaline that gets you going. But if you rely solely on adrenaline's a stress hormone.
Yeah, it makes you sick.
It can get you make you jittery and stuff. What happens in flow, it works in a cycle, the first stage being the struggle. And that's where adrenaline shows up. We got to like get up and get ready to go, literally get ready to fight. And you trigger a little bit of a fight or flight response, like a skier going down a black diamond or a mountain biker about to like do the thing.
Drop in,
you got to attack the mountain.
Yeah.
Right? If you're lackadaisical, you're going down, and it's bad news.
Yeah.
So you have to choose the fight. Adrenaline is useful there. But as soon as you choose the fight and you drop in and drop into flow, nitric oxide gets released and flushes all those stress chemicals out. And then you get huge amounts of dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, anandamide, all the endorphins. Now you're in flow, and you get that chemical cocktail that is totally relaxing, but hyper focused. That's the effortless effort and the super enjoyment that comes from it.
So you somehow, got into this. You discovered.
Yeah. When I discovered Kotler's first book, Rise of Superman, around flow states, it was at a point in my life where I was really trying to help my mental health and heal my brain. I was convinced that I had CTE at that point. This was like around 2016. The movie had come out, Concussion, with Will Smith. The Concussion Legacy Foundation was starting up. CTE research was coming out. I was convinced that I had early stages. And I'm watching NFL players kill themselves, and I'm like terrified. Yeah. I got to do something. Then I discover flow states and what's going on in the brain, and I'm like, whoa, that is the thing I've been missing. Hugely revolutionary concept for me, and I just grabbed onto it. And so I started to try to make my life about finding flow in all the things that I do. And it's really changed my life for the better in everything, including now with my triplets.
Parenting.
Like parenting is hugely like ripe for flow. If we can be in the moment, right? That's what it's all about. So I discovered that. And then a few years later, as I'm trying to work in flow states and also working in physical therapy with patients and trying to heal my own body from chronic pain, which was just not working, by the way. 10 years, I tried everything to get rid of all these pains.
Working from the outside in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And from the bottom up primarily. Yeah. Ignoring everything above my neck,
Right.
which is what most modalities do.
Of course. Yeah.
Nobody's really looking above the neck. So then I was introduced to a company and their founders, which are now mentors and close friends, at a wedding that I was officiating because I'm also a reverend, right?
Same. Isn't it the best? It's such an honor.
So much fun doing those.
So much fun.
My brother was marrying a German girl. She is a neuro trainer. And her mentors that were just starting this new company and this new mentorship in applied neurology training came and helped stream it to her family in Germany.
And they're American or are they German?
They're American. They live here in Phoenix.
Oh, nice.
Actually, about 2 blocks from me.
Oh, nice.
So
we'll go say hi.
Yeah. We met. They're like, hey, we're doing this thing. You'd be perfect for it. Do you want to jump in? I was like, of course I do. Starts next week. Right. How serendipitous, right? That changed everything. My chronic pain after starting that mentorship and learning about how to intentionally work with the brain and nervous system, specifically and precisely, my chronic pain, all of it was gone within a couple months of learning these tools.
Were you doing things besides the neuro training?
I was doing all the regular things. Yeah, working out, doing all the physical therapy and corrective exercise in the world. And I still love all that and do all of it, right? It's all important, but it's just kind of
this extra piece.
Yeah, it's disregarding the 3 super, super important systems that are informing the brain about our environment and whether or not it's safe and predictable. If it doesn't feel safe and predictable for whatever reason, your perception of threat from the brain goes up and it gives you pain, anxiety, tension, stiffness, even autoimmune conditions, gut issues, dizziness, vertigo, all the things.
Well, I was telling you before we started about how I hate to ride as a passenger in the front seat of cars. I was just talking to a friend of mine this morning and you explained why, which I thought I was just, a freakish control freak, which is, I guess that they're not mutually exclusive, but
well, that want to control everything could also be an output from your brain because it makes you feel more safe. That's totally
that's
true.
100% what it is.
Yeah. And it's
not wanting to be in control for the sake of control.
It's the same kind of mechanism in your brain as ADHD, as OCD, as other kind of behavior or mood disorders. There are disconnects in the brain a lot of times because of threat from these higher order systems, like your vision, the way your eyes move, not just the clarity. I don't care really about the clarity. It's important, yes. But I'm talking about the 30 or so other skills that your eyes need to be able to do. Your inner ear also is always telling your brain, am I safe in this environment? Because gravity is not our best friend in terms of survival. If we fall and hit our head, game over, lights out, right? So our brain really wants to protect us from that. So if your inner ear is not helping or it's a little bit dysregulated, maybe a hit to the head, maybe an ototoxic medication or a virus that can affect your vestibular system. Lots of things can happen. If it gets a little bit off, then there's just a little bit of threat all the time, which can show up as pain, as back pain, as IT band syndrome, or the person that runs on a treadmill for 10 minutes and they're like, now I have knee pain. What's this runner's knee all about? It's like, is there a problem with your knee? No, probably not. But something is causing your brain to send pain to that spot.
I think that's the piece of it that we forget, because it's easy to be like, no, when my knee hurts, it's because there's something wrong with my knee, right? And the part that people like I forget, who are not immersed in this every single day, is that that's actually a signal coming from my brain to tell me that something hurts. And maybe that signal is not actually that my knee hurts. It's my brain telling my body, stop or slow down.
or change something or slow down. Yes, that's exactly right. That's the perfect way to describe it. And if you look at it that way, then it's like, okay, all I need to do is remove some threat any way that I can, and this can go away. And so for that knee, I can actually move your opposite elbow in a circle and tell your brain, because of how our gait works, this is a concept called opposing joints, get rid of that knee pain more than like 75% of the time. Or we can look at your inner ear.
What?
Yeah, and your eyes and see, are they integrating that information well, right? And if they're not, then you might have this sensory mismatch to where, like on a treadmill, my eyes say that I'm standing still, but my body says that I'm moving at an incredible pace.
Yeah, it's not matching up.
Exactly. And that creates threat, leads to pain, dizziness, nausea, anxiety.
Nothing good.
Things. Yeah.
Nothing good. It was interesting. And Sports Fam, I want you to go to Brandon's Instagram, because he has all sorts of exercises. 30-second exercises that you can do that are.
That's why I love it. Neurotraining is so simple and easy, right? It's the fastest
and non-invasive.
system.
It's not like you're sticking a needle into my ear. Yeah.
You don't need anything. You just need some eyes and a body. And the last system, by the way, is breathing, that gets overlooked and underutilized in every scenario, whether it's pain relief or performance. I cannot overstate how important breathing is and how little even just lip service that we give it. Yoga is the only area that's actually kind of really into it, but it's also not from a neurological perspective. So if we looked more at those three systems, in addition to, all the body stuff is great. That's all super important, but we can layer on the neuro stuff, and it's so easy to do, but it can really get somebody out of pain much quicker, right? Which is kind of where I work with most athletes. At first, they come to me with pain. They've seen everybody else. But very, very quickly, now we're using neurotraining as the performance edge to really catapult you into that flow state and peak performance.
You mentioned ADHD, OCD, those things. Are those things also that you work with people on?
Oh, yeah. Quick example is this soccer stud from here in Scottsdale that I worked with recently. He came to me after an ankle injury. We're going to rehab the ankle. Very quickly, I learned through his mom and through him that he was a twin, lost his twin brother in the womb, and he had hearing loss in both ears and some other kind of neurological issues that they thought were fixed. They were still causing some threat.
A high school student?
Yeah, he was 16 at the time. And very quickly, we got into a little conversation about school once, and he told me that he hates school. He can read, but he doesn't like to read, and it makes schoolwork very hard.
Of course,
it's a challenge for him.
Yeah.
They've diagnosed him with ADHD. I think he was medicated at the time. Well, within a 5-minute assessment, I found out that yes, he's got auditory issues. So we worked on some auditory mapping to help with his hearing and his spatial awareness, which on the soccer field, incredibly important. Yeah.
Massive.
But his eyes were causing a massive amount of problems, like threat, because they weren't able to, the word is converge, like come together on a point. So tracking an object as it comes closer to you and further away. Kind of like when you're driving and you have to see the car in front of you and know where to stop. Your eyes are converging on that target and then diverging, coming in and out. His ability to do that was very lacking. So when you read, your eyes are constantly converging and they're moving back and forth.
It would be exhausting. It would be exhausting if they're not converging.
It takes a ton of energy and resources from your brain. The threat level goes up pretty quickly.
No wonder he hated it.
And for him, the threat was fatigue. Every time he would read 2 minutes in, he'd be like falling asleep. Okay, well, we did some visual drills for him. Again, 30-second drill, and he started practicing that on his own. He came back within a week, and he not only mentioned that his soccer play was so much better, like he was passing without looking and able to just nail.
Because he had that spatial awareness now.
Both from his ears, hearing and the vestibular function, but from his eyes too. And then the greatest thing, you know, from his mom's perspective, was that he was enjoying school again. He was reading, not falling asleep. He was enjoying school, and his grades were reflected, you know, over that semester. So the lack of awareness around the visual system, especially, but also vestibular and breathing, is just so much opportunity for coaches and athletes in sports, but everywhere. That, it's like that. And then this flow stuff for me is just, I got so much passion around spreading the word for those things. And what I like to do is marry the two together. So I use neuro training and flow state coaching to take somebody from, good athlete, mediocre athlete, athlete in pain, to your peak performance, wherever that is right now, and give you the tools to really consistently achieve that. So you start to see like exponential gains in your performance.
Well, and it just, I don't know. I mean, like what you were talking about how good it feels to be in flow. Like, I just keep thinking about that. Like, yeah, your performance is way up there, but my gosh, how good do you feel?
That's the true gold right there.
Yeah. It's time for a game changer tip.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about flow.
Yeah.
As you know, I love to ask my guests for something we can take out into the world. I'm ready to sign up my entire volleyball team to just come and do neuro training with you. Awesome. But tell me what your game changer tip is for us.
Yeah. So I think one of the first things that I teach all my clients, and I always revisit every time I see them, is this idea of what I call the default day. And it's this idea from statistics, really, called the regression to the mean. In athletic circles, it's often said like this, like, you'll never rise to the level of your expectations, but you'll always fall to the level of your training.
Right.
So if you're training, what I call your default day is not moving you forward, even just one tiny little % better every day, then you're getting worse. And over time, that's going to lead to exponential gains in each direction. So we want to make sure that our default day.
So give us an example. Give us a real life example of a default day versus.
So the parts of the day that I always talk about, I call them my 7 fundamentals for flow. And they're taken from positive psychology and neuro and flow state coaching, all that. And they are exercise, nutrition, hydration, sleep, gratitude, mindfulness, social support, and neurohygiene.
Ooh, I like that last one. I want to hear more about that.
You floss your teeth, you should also floss your brain.
That's an image for you.
But it's basically like, what are the minimum amount of things you need to do? And these are the 7 things that I think are the minimum in order to keep you moving even 1% better. So when life happens, if you can do the minimum for these 7 things, you will always be progressing forward. You might miss 1 or 2 here and there. Like, everybody's different on how much social support and connection they need. For me, a few conversations with a close friend where I kind of lose track of time and we find a little flow, right? And I can actually reconnect with somebody like that. A couple like that per week is fine. My wife needs daily. That's just how she's wired, and that's how she finds her center and all that. But like gratitude and mindfulness, you should have a daily practice, even if it's 2 minutes, where you just get centered and where you show some appreciation. Over time, it changes the way your brain is wired, and you start to seek out those things everywhere. You start to, when you count your wins, you find more wins, right?
Not the truth.
Yeah. And then like exercise, I think we were talking about that earlier. I'm not talking about a full-on workout, go train as hard as you can. I'm talking about like when life happens, can you get 20 minutes where you work out enough to let your mind go quiet. Maybe that's just a 20-minute walk around the neighborhood. That's fine. That's enough.
Yep.
That's moving you forward. Nutrition, hydration, those type of things. If you can have a default day in place for when stuff happens, and you can revert to that mean, regress to that mean, right? If that is the thing that you always come back to as your default, you will keep moving forward. Nothing can stop you if you can do that.
I love it. Tell me if somebody would like to learn more, because I have your Instagram, which is I am Brandon Day. So Sports Fam, you can go to his Instagram. He's got a link there to his NeuroFlow Method. But is there somewhere else where people should go? So I have a couple communities on School, SKOOL, for anybody that's not familiar, where I actually host a ton of free resources. And I even have like a DIY neurotraining course where you can walk through, test out all these drills, learn about how these different systems affect your pain and performance, and really just, fix yourself right there. It's right there. And it's all free.
It's all free.
You're offering it all for free.
It's all free. Eventually it will get moved behind a paywall. I do have a paid community too, where I show up and coach multiple days a week. And then I have my one-on-one training, but the school communities, the free community is called the NeuroFlow Performance Lab.
And I know there's a link to that from your Instagram.
Link, yeah.
Because I signed up for that.
And in there, I show up in there every day. And there's a pretty good community in there that's neurotrainers and athletes, and people from all walks of life, really. But they're all doing their thing and putting up questions and learning and trying things. And it's a really cool community that is super supportive. So that'd be the other place.
And it does definitely seem like it's for everybody. You don't have to be a high-level athlete, to benefit from it.
The first thing I tell any client of mine, the first myth that I like to dispel is that you need to be high level to be considered an athlete. Most people don't identify as athletes, but I think everyone's an athlete.
I agree.
We're all playing this sport of life, and it's a contact sport, right? The non-athlete that doesn't train like an athlete, that gets scared by the cat running out from the garbage can and then steps off the curb, they probably sprain their ankle as they roll over. But the athlete steps, rolls the ankle, but pops right back up. We should all train as athletes. Yeah. Always. Yeah. So
there you go. We got 2 game changer tips.
Yeah, there you go.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah,
this has been such just an unexpected joy. I wasn't sure what we were going to get into, and you were just amazing. So
thank you.
I really, really appreciate it. Sports Fam, like I said, you can find Brandon on Instagram at I am Brandon Day. And like I said, he has a link there to his NeuroFlow program. And of course, photos and videos of his adorable triplets. You are not going to believe how cute these kids are. I have long said this, if you're having a bad day, all you have to do is Google laughing babies, and I don't know what it does to your brain, but it's something deep and primal.
It is.
And
magical.
it is the best. So, so you can do 2 things at once, check out his NeuroFlow and his cute kids. Thank you always for listening. If you know somebody who would enjoy this episode, please be sure to share it with them. And by now, we are on all of the socials at Sports Will Save Us All and online at sportswillsaveusall.com. And if you know somebody who we should talk to, make sure to send us an email at sportswillsaveusall@gmail.com. That is it for me today. I will be back next week with more stories about how sports will save us all.